Here we go. We'll start in the north, and I'm just going to work around from the east, back around, and all the way back around to Florida State and Florida schools. Penn State. I picked them on purpose. Why? Well, they obviously fired James Franklin, but they aspired to be great. They were number 2, I think, and then they had the losing streak real quick, and they fired him. That shows you how much commitment they have to winning. So, yes, it's strategic that I use them first. If you do not fire Mike Norvell when your peers, that's a school that you, for a long time, ironically, Joe Pa and Coach Bobby Bowden, they were competing for who had the most wins all time, individual coaches. That's a peer school, and they are not happy when they're a school that loses a couple of games. So what would that make you? So is Florida State in a better spot with the administration part as well as what they think they should do? Yes or no with Penn State? Ohio State, there's no thinking there. That's a hell no. That's the best program in college football. They're doing it right. Not a chance. Michigan, this one's interesting because I think they're in some trouble. They barely beat Northwestern today, who, by the way, I don't even know the name of the head coach. Shout out to him. He's done a pretty good job there with limited talent. They needed a last-second field goal to beat Northwestern. Not a good sign. It's year 2 for Sherrone Moore. I think he's in over his head. Good coach. He's not ready for the Michigan job. They're going to stumble and bumble around. That's going to be weird because of the Bryce Underwood thing. I'm not sure that's going to work out well. But I would still personally rank them ahead of Florida State. At least they're putting money into their program and whatnot. They're not light years ahead of Florida State, though, because they could be in the fire mode next year if things don't turn around. We'll see. Notre Dame, obviously one of the best programs in college football. Conservatively, right now, I'd say top 5 because of how good their head coach is, how much they've donated to put into money and all that. They're loading up. If anybody's even considering Florida State in the same stratosphere as Notre Dame right now, check yourself. That's not realistic. Nebraska, I added this one. This is a program that's no longer a national title contender. Used to be. But they're dumping money in like crazy to that program in every way possible, being creative, etc. Penn State was thinking about hiring Rule. He's a Penn State grad, for those who don't know. And what happened? They extended. Cash. They're in a better spot in some ways than Florida State. You could argue that one's probably the hardest because I still think where they're located, it's not sustainable there. In today's world, I just don't think they get enough players. But it shows you, again, money matters. Florida State's got to find more money. That's not any nice way to say it, but it's true. Oregon, no. Florida State is not in a better spot. But here's the irony. Again, this is a money thing. Their location is dreadful, and they're doing better. So having the world's greatest booster does matter. But they also hired a great coach. They went out and hired an assistant under Kirby's wing. Note, I keep talking about Glenn Schumann. I'd be perfectly fine if Florida State hired Glenn Schumann. So, yes, Oregon is in a better spot than Florida State. I'm sure everybody knows that. USC, this one's interesting. I think Lincoln Riley is the most overrated coach in college football, and I have said it for years. How do you rank them? They got a great recruiting class. They're dumping $1 gazillion in because they got some rich boosters. But do you buy Lincoln Riley? And here's why I bring it up. For those that don't know, his contract, it's not public because USC is a private institution. You can't look up the details. It's still astronomical from what I'm told for somebody that's close to that program. Are they in a better spot? Like his contract's way higher than Mike's. Mike's is over 50. Ugh, that's awkward. They won today. They beat Iowa. They're a good team, but they can't beat their rival Notre Dame. UCLA sucks. You can't really measure them against that. And they just can't win away from home. They play at Oregon next week. They're probably going to get blitzed. Let's see what USC does. But while I think they're better than Florida State, I don't think that program's going anywhere. It's ironic. They're a really weird team to figure out. Oklahoma, they just beat Bama on the road. They're the two teams, Florida State and Oklahoma, ironically, that are both winners against the Alabama Crimson Tide this year. Oklahoma also recently won at Tennessee. They've got some other good wins this year. And while they haven't been perfect, they're a squad that just, quite honestly, they're tiptoeing around heading in the right direction. I don't know how you rank Oklahoma because their offense was dreadful today. They got outgained by 194 yards, but they did win the turnover battle 3-0. Are they in a better spot than Florida State? No. Because They were teeter-tottering a couple weeks ago on, like, if they'd have lost to Tennessee, the firing squad stuff would have been talked about because their fan base is bananas. But I think they're ahead now because they might make the playoff. That's how thin a line it is. They're kind of like Penn State. Either we go to the playoff or you got to go. Is Florida State's administration in that boat? What do you say? Texas playing against, I don't know what the score is. I don't know what the final was. They were getting smoked against Georgia late. They got out coached today and all that. But with their resources, having Sark, how close would you, I mean, it's obviously they're not as good as Texas as a program. Is Florida State not as far away as we think if they hire the right coach? I think it'd be pretty quick because Sark didn't do a very good job this year. O-line didn't perform. Their defense is good. But the receiver group, probably not considering what they had with money. In a year or so, Florida State might be up there with them. Texas is still ahead for now, though. Another really interesting one is LSU, a program that, quite honestly, you had a great chance against in a lot of different ways because you beat them recently on the field, etc., to kind of move away. They fired their coach. Lord only knows who they're going to go after. But it's interesting to bring up Florida State situation for the following reason. Is Florida State concerned about getting rid of Norvell because LSU is another major job that's open? LSU doesn't care what other jobs are open. The way they look at their program, the way they want to dump money in, his contract is very similar to Norvell's. They didn't care. They got rid of it. For that reason, I say LSU is ahead. What do you say and why? Comment down below. Ole Miss, they kind of scratched and clawed to beat Florida today, but they won. The thought that Ole Miss is better than Florida State is mind-blowing. But their administration has built it up. Give them credit. They're in a better spot than Florida State right now. And they should never be in the conversation for winning titles and all that stuff. Florida State doesn't have Lane Kiffin, though. They might have had an opportunity if they'd have done it differently a few years ago, but that's water under the bridge. Okay, it is what it is. Bama, you beat them this year at your place. Beat them convincingly. But they're still probably going to be in the playoff. That's another one. Obviously, you're not better than. I think Norvell, well, he's probably going to get fired, and I certainly hope so. DeBoer, by the way, this is just a side note. It's obvious they have a better program overall than Florida State. If they lose to Auburn in a couple of weeks, that's going to get real interesting. Just throwing that out there. Can't really fire him at 9-3 year two, but their fan base is not mentally stable when it comes to losing to Auburn like that. I live in Auburn. It'd be hilarious, but just throwing that out there. Speaking of Auburn, I don't think Florida State is concerned with what Auburn's doing, but they could potentially, now that the Auburn job is open and Hugh Freeze has been canned, they could go after Summerall. And the betting odds favor Summerall getting the job. He's the head coach at Tulane. He's somebody that I think Florida State has either already contacted, whatever. There's going to be something there. Maybe somebody off his staff. There's a lot of connections. He's coached in the state of Alabama. He's from Texas, played at Kentucky. He's recruited all around the same areas that Florida State does. He'll get a call. So I don't think Auburn's in a very good spot. That program has been mismanaged horrifically, but they have spent. They got a pretty good roster. They've recruited well. Are they better than Florida State? Their roster is defensively and all that. It's more balanced, but they've mismanaged offense so bad. I don't think it's that much. Within 5 minutes of hiring the right coach, Florida State could pass Auburn. It's ironic. The Florida Gators, the team that I'll give them credit today. Hats off to the Gators. They played hard. They led for quite a bit of the game against Ole Miss, but they let Billy Napier come back this year. If they don't get Kiffin, I'm just going to make this statement now. If they don't get Kiffin, Florida State will leapfrog them because I don't think they're going to get anybody else that's an elite coach. That's my guess. And I trust Florida State to do a better job than I do Florida. I don't trust their administration at all with football making decisions. How poorly they've mismanaged the whole Napier thing is even worse than what Florida State's done. Now, by being clear, I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying Florida State has done a good job with Norvell. They have not. But I don't blame them for giving him the contract because that's what every school in the country would have done after winning 13 games. It's just true. It is just carte blanche how it works. Everybody gets mad about it. It's just the way that works. Florida would have done the same thing. Miami, Georgia, anybody else, whatever. But if they don't get Kiffin, even if Florida State got Summerall or anybody else like that, they got Golish. I have no idea who it'll be. Buster Faulkner from Georgia Tech, whatever. They'll pass Florida. How ironic, as much as I hammer Norvell, am I saying that Florida State could pass Florida pretty quickly? And I don't care who wins the game this year. It's not meaningless because it's a game. Neither team's going anywhere this year, so it doesn't matter that much. That's going to be very interesting to see how that shakes out with Lane Kiffin and the Gators. Miami, they can't win big games because they don't do well on game day. Some of their preparation's too conservative with run the ball into the ground. Mario Cristobal is the head coach, but their roster's awful good. They dump a ton of money into NIL. They're ahead of Florida State. I think everybody knows that. But how much is it? I have actually a very difficult time defining that. So that while that's an extra question, and obviously Miami's a peer institution, I don't think they're that far ahead of Florida State because I don't think Mario is a very good game day coach. He's one of the worst in major college football. If you hire a good tactical coach, even at a talent disadvantage for a year or two, Florida State could beat Miami home or away. That's just something you got to deal with if you're a Miami person as it relates to having Cristobal. He loves the place, but he's not a great game day guy. And then finally, Clemson. I have no idea what's going on there. They won Friday night, 20-19 over Louisville. They're playing hard, but they're losing their quarterback. Do we really think that Dabo Swinney made the right coaching calls, coordinators? Maybe, maybe not. Playing hard's one thing, but like you can run on them, and they got 3 guys minimum in their front 7 they're going to play in the NFL. They got cracks. That's another program like Florida. I think if you hire the right coach at Florida State, you can run right by Clemson because Dabo's the most stubborn guy in college football. Being more stubborn than Kirby Smart is hard. Very hard. Dabo did it. Lastly, just going to throw this in with an asterisk because it's only year 2. Indiana. As long as Signetti's there, they're a team that can compete. They're ahead of Florida State, but I don't expect that to last. I'm an Indiana grad. I'm not a fool. They're probably not going to get another coach like him. That's one of the weirdest things in history of college football, whatever. And for those that are curious, why didn't I bring up Texas Tech? This is the first year they've been good. They got to be good for just like Indiana. It's got to take a while for me to say that. I need to see what they do. Can they keep coaches around? Like nobody really wants to live in Lubbock from what I'm told. I'm not a Texas guy, but I'm told that's not a very great place. Let's see what they do, but it is what it is. And finally, Tennessee, they're a good program. I think they've done a good job. They're more stable than Florida State, but I kind of wonder if they plateaued. I'd put them in the Florida, Miami category. Florida State hires the right coach, they can go right by Tennessee. I need to see them take another step. They got Faison Brandon coming in, a great quarterback recruit, great kid, too, just super kid out of North Carolina, 5-star kid. But are they going to, make a move with a freshman? Are they going to go to the portal again? Is Aguilar coming back? Like, there's a lot of questions there. I don't think Tennessee's in a great spot, but they're not bad either. I think they're going to be more that 9-3, 8-4 team, which Josh Heupel's a good coach, but that league's hard. And they play Bama every year. They play Georgia every year. Good luck. So I think that's another program Florida State could go by. What do you think? Now, as for the comments, if you've got any comment about any of those teams, those are the programs that can win it as a general rule. Outside of something else, like Georgia Tech, sorry, I don't see it. Washington's been in it a few times, but yeah, I don't see it. Wisconsin's not on that level. Michigan State's fallen off. I know I didn't miss anybody else that's a true contender. BYU's, I don't think they're winning a title. They're not. I don't consider them peer. The Big 12 in general, Arizona State might have a little bit. Oh, A&M. I forgot A&M. Absolutely better than Florida State right now. By the way, what a great comeback for them. They were down 30-3 and won. I think it's pretty clear that A&M and their money, and they've got a real coach. They're better than Florida State right now, and that's going to be a hard one to pull away from. That's a top 10 program.